Stewart on our phone. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, good morning, Ray. How you been?
Ron. I remember we met at the...
We met at Plain Township Public Meeting.
Yeah, and I called you Robert,
February.
and you called me Ray.
Sorry about that. There's actually a guy in the industry named Ray Pander. I guess that's where I get that from.
Ray Pander? He's an imposter, so...
He's an imposter.
Yeah. But anyway, Tom,
what's up?
Good to talk to you again. And, this fracking issue is not going to go away.
Nope.
And we always cover it, and we cover it from both sides of the issue. Give us an idea, Tom, of what who you represent and what your position is on fracking.
I represent the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, which since the 1940s has advocated on behalf of independent oil and natural gas producers, practically anybody who's engaged in the process of exploring for, developing and producing oil and gas resources in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
I also serve as the executive director of Energy in Depth in Ohio, a grassroots campaign to get information out on the subjects that we're talking about.
Yeah, we talked to Mike this morning from that organization. So now, so we can now automatically assume that you are a pro-drilling, pro-fracking person. Tell us why.
Well, I'm pro-American energy and pro-jobs. I'm pro-reliable energy. And Ohio has a fantastic opportunity with this Utica Shale development to provide what we've already been what we've already been providing for the state of Ohio, which is locally produced resources, and primarily natural gas and oil, that are being used here within our borders. And with the development of major new technologies, we're unlocking the key to very dense formations that contain a lot of oil and gas, but the technology wasn't there before to get it out, and the industry has developed that technology, and it will be a very meaningful event for the state of Ohio.
Now, you mentioned the Utica Shale, but also the Marcellus Shale formations. All of the reports that I've read, Tom, indicate a vast amount of trapped oil and gas beneath the surface. Now, the issue here, I think, is fracking. Could you explain the fracking process to our listeners, please?
Hydraulic fracturing is a process that's been in place since 1947. Probably the very first wells hydraulically fractured in the state of Ohio began around 1952 or 53. And since that time, there's been over 80,000 wells hydraulically fractured in the state of Ohio. The reason you would frack a well is that you attempt to create permeability, a pathway through a reservoir rock where the permeability does not exist to allow oil and gas to move through the rock and into the wellbore. So a lot of reservoirs, and the Clinton sandstone found right underneath your feet there in Stark County has a lot of oil and gas in it, and that oil and gas probably came from a source rock below it called the Utica Shale, and it's trapped in the Clinton, but the permeability characteristics don't allow it to move. So you frack a well to open up a pathway through the rock to allow that oil and gas to come to the wellbore and produce in economic quantities.
Now, some of the issues that have been raised in some of the meetings, Tom, just like the one that you were at, that I've moderated, have been the safety issues, the regulation issues. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources is the regulatory agency over fracking in Ohio, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah. Now, from what I understand, the governor just placed $1.7 million additional in their budget for monitoring of these wells. How confident are you that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources has the resources, manpower, technological resources, to adequately monitor the fracking and the fracking?
Very confident. In Senate Bill 165 last year, which, by the way, 118 out of 130 members of the General Assembly voted for, so a large bipartisan majority voted for last year in the last General Assembly, doubled funding from the industry to the oil and gas regulatory program, lockboxed it, matter of fact. In addition, you are correct, in the biennium budget bill that was just enacted back in June, there was additional money that was brought over from the general revenue funds to give the resources to the oil and gas regulatory program to immediately staff up and address a lot of specific issues that needed to be addressed as the shale play gets up on its feet. I think that money will eventually be expected to be returned, primarily through funding that will come in through future severance taxes. Mm-hmm. So before shale became a huge issue, the resources were doubled up to make sure that they had the resources to protect the public trust. In Senate Bill 165, which was probably the most significant amendment to oil and gas law since the oil and gas chapter was created in the 1960s, there were specific issues addressed in that, including the big one, which is well construction. 2, frac disclosure. Any citizen now can go in and look at the public record on well completion reports and find out how the well was fracked, what constituents went into the frack, at what point they went into the frack, and in what concentration. You can also get what's called the frack chart, which shows you pressure and rate over time. So if there was any incident that happened during that stimulation job out on that well that day, it would show up on that chart, and so the complete record's there. In addition, at the request of the Ohio Environmental Council, an amendment was added to 165 that provides for disclosure of all chemicals that are used that will be posted up on the ODNR's website. In addition, huge advances in enforcement authority were given to the oil and gas regulatory program to make sure that if there was somebody creating a problem, that they had the full tools underneath the law to pursue that person, seek corrective action, take action against that person on behalf of the public trust.
Now,
all of that, by the way, was validated by a peer critique that brought the environmental community, regulators from outside of the state of Ohio, industry, U.S. EPA, U.S. DOE, the guy that's doing the study at U.S. EPA on hydraulic fracturing, witnessed the entire event, came in, did a peer critique of the oil and gas regulatory program specific to hydraulic fracturing post 165, and found that the regulatory program was very well managed, meeting its program objectives, and had a lot to recommend to other states on how to do it right. That was signed off on by the environmental community.
And the person that did this presumably had no dog in this fight, right? He's objective.
It was an organization called Stronger, the State Review of Oil and Natural Gas Environmental Regulations, that brings stakeholders together to actually do something constructive to improve the situation instead of trying to destroy a situation. And there's environmentalists involved on that, including an environmentalist from the Oil and Gas Accountability Project, Earthworks, and those types of organizations. They came in. As a matter of fact, the person that led the review team is one of the founding members of Earthworks and Oil and Gas Accountability Project. They signed off on that report, saying that the Ohio program is meeting its program objectives and has a lot to recommend to other states.
Okay, we're talking with Tom Stewart. He represents the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Many of you may have seen Tom and met him at the fracking meetings that were held up at in Plain Township, and also some other. You've had some other appearances here in Stark County as well, Tom.
Well, that was a snowy night, wasn't it?
It was, and it's rainy tonight, but this is Ohio, so next time you come, it may be snowing again. You specifically mentioned chemicals. That was one of the issues at night about residents being able to find out what chemicals are being used. You mentioned the drilling process itself. Some of the folks there in the crowd talked about having on their property wells that caused two-headed cows to be born, and the fact that they could light their tap water. How do you respond to those
Well, let's take
points?
that one. I remember the lady from West Virginia. I don't know how she found her way to Canton.
Now let's be nice, Tom. Let's be nice.
I don't know how she found her way there, because this is a meeting for citizens of Plain Township in Stark County. And she comes in and gives this story that a drilling rig shows up, and shortly thereafter, cows are being born with two heads and no pupils in their eyes. And I'm not sure how that relates to valid, concerned citizens who have rational concerns. But let's take the issue of flaming faucets. Remember, you can find in an aquifer two things: water, and you can find natural gas. In fact, crude oil and natural gas have been found at depths in the state of Ohio as shallow as 50 feet above freshwater aquifers, put there by nature. But what's funny about the flaming faucet is the guy that made the movie Gasland, Josh Fox, had to admit in a forum several months ago, I believe it was in Chicago, that he ignored credible reports conducted by the state of Colorado that demonstrated that the guy who had the flaming faucet, when they looked at his water well, that it had naturally occurring natural gas there long before any oil and gas drilling ever occurred. In fact, you can go up and down eastern Ohio and find flaming faucets all the time because natural gas occurs naturally in those aquifers. It was put there by nature. You can find degassers on major water well systems just to get the natural gas out when they use water for commercial concerns like agriculture.
Let's quickly turn our attention, Tom, to the subject of jobs. How many jobs? I've heard all kinds of projections on how many jobs the fracking industry, the drilling industry, is going to increase here in the state of Ohio. Do you have an estimate?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Let's call it the oil and gas exploration and production industry.
Okay.
Drilling is part of that. Fracturing is a one-day event in the life of a well. It's a well stimulation process. It doesn't have anything to do with drilling and very little to do with production. It's just a well stimulation process to get a well to produce, and then you're done. But there was an economic study that came out that was conducted by Klein Henson Associates out of Cleveland, who does a lot of this kind of work for a whole variety of industries, that updated a study of the Ohio Oil and Gas Energy Education Program in 2008. Using a lot of data that they had collected, they estimate that if the Utica comes around, as many people expect it to do, that it could generate upwards of 204,000 jobs. Now, that's a significant event for the state of Ohio.
Yeah, 204,000 jobs.
It's a lot of jobs.
That's a lot of jobs. Well, Tom, we want to thank you for being a guest in our program. We're probably going to call upon you again because this is going to be
happy to do it.
This has been a continuing discussion here in Stark County, and it's going to continue to be that way. So feel free to get in touch with us and thank Mike for setting this up today, and we'll be back in touch with you.
Great to talk with you. Please call again.
Thank you, Tom. Tom Stewart from the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, talking about the safety issues that's been raised regarding hydraulic fracking in this area. It's been going on since 1952. 204,000 jobs. That's a lot of jobs.